Slugs erase with the lead. One thing they forgot to mention is that we living in 2 dimensions. They tell me follow my heart, so I just follow your name when mentioned. Look back at so many years, so many tears, so many fears. Drop down with so many prayers, but I'm aware, I know that you're here, cause
I can see your breath on my window. I can see your face in my dreams.
All right, welcome everybody to the Match Book Podcast, episode 7. Today we talking about suicide. It's a real serious topic. A lot of people don't talk about it, but I wanted to talk about it. So I have a couple guests here. I'm gonna let them introduce themselves. Go ahead, introduce yourself.
All right. Hello, my name is Gabriel Bryant. I'm the Community Engagement Equity Manager over at the Department of Behavioral Health and Intellectual Disability Services, or for short, DBHIDS. Happy to be here.
All right, thank you.
Hi, my name is Jassy, and I'm a friend of ARSIN's.
Okay. What else you do?
I'm also an intern for Extinguished Entertainment.
Okay, what you do there?
Photography.
Okay, that's what's up. So yeah, I wanted to talk about this topic today because mental health is a big issue in America and the world. We all go through it, especially now with social media. It's another layer of how people are affected with the comparisons and all of the information and things that we're seeing. You know, everything, for example, even like police brutality, murders, all the stuff going on. And I wanted to kind of bring it to light to possibly help somebody like you that may be going through it, or somebody you know. So I have a couple questions for you. One of my first questions is, why is it such a great need for mental health services in the community?
I mean, it's a vast need. I mean, right now in our community, we're going through so much. You know, we've had so much trauma built up over the course of so many years, let alone through the COVID, right? I mean, we're dealing with intergenerational traumas. We're dealing with vicarious trauma, those who are, our frontline workers, our schools.
What is that for people that don't know?
Sure. So vicarious trauma are those traumas or instances where you're sort of experiencing trauma by servicing others, right? So for instance, somebody who might be a nurse is going through vicarious trauma, always constantly seeing people wounded and shot every day. Somebody who might be a healthcare worker, right? Behavioral health therapist, going through vicarious trauma, always constantly hearing stories of people's pain and grief. That's what we mean by vicarious trauma. And routine trauma would be the every night, hearing the gunshots every night, seeing the beatdowns every day at school. And so we have
the murders and the drills on camera on social media too.
100%. And so because of that, we're kind of holding a lot of things in. And because there's so much stigma and taboo about looking at our mental health, right? We kind of put it to the side. We kind of think about it as something different. We hold a lot of that pain in. We hold a lot of that anger in, that aggression in, that stress in, that anxiety in, and it's not healthy for us. And that mental health winds up impacting our physical health. And that's where we kind of come to a issue now in our community, man, where so many young people all the way up to seniors are being impacted.
For sure. As a person that do the work, what populations, age groups, demographics you see are affected the most by just mental health issues in general?
Well, I would say, so for the Department of Behavioral Health where I work, I actually lead an initiative called EMOC, which stands for Engaging Males of Color. Mm-hmm. And this initiative is designed to promote mental health and wellness for Black men and boys, Latino men and boys. And the statistics are, just shocking. Because the reality is that, as you mentioned, we're dealing with so much gun violence. We're dealing with so much tragedies and trying to address poverty. We're dealing with systemic racism, microaggressions on the job, right? On the workforce.
Say it again. Microaggressions on the job.
Yeah, seriously.
Oh, for real.
And having to come back, to your partner at home and dealing with all that pain and anxiety, bringing it back home to your child.
It's crazy. People don't even see everything you just said. Everything you just said. Somebody's probably watching like, dag, that's what that is. Like,
yeah.
They don't even know why they're arguing with their partner. They don't know why they're yelling at their children a certain way.
Yep.
They don't know why they feel uneasy and they're having nightmares. It's good that you articulated.
Yeah, and sadly to your point, which is so profound. A lot of times, some of us get numb to it. We get numb to the reality of, I'm just dealing with this pain. I'm dealing with this anguish. I'm dealing with, as we say, we're feeling a type of way is like you're a consistent thing, to the point where feeling a type of way is like your everyday perpetual lived experience. And so we need a lot of help. I mean, just as far as the data is concerned, we know that 46% of Black youth have experienced a shooting and 57% have experienced a stabbing. And so these are just things that we've seen every day with our young people. We also know that up to 40% of our people who are incarcerated actually have a mental health condition. And one thing that we always say from a standpoint of ours is that although mental health is a big part of violence, we don't want to confuse the issue, because in actuality, people who have a mental health condition are more likely to be the victims of violence, not the perpetrators. And so we always also make that distinction as well.
Yeah, it's a lot of different layers. And today I wanted to talk about, suicide, but more so the prevention. So what's some things that you feel are remedies to some of these mental health issues, behaviors, before a person can get to the point where say, I want to kill myself, or I'm going to kill myself?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple of things to look out for, first of all, right? For us, it's always a matter of, is your current condition affecting the ability to like live, love, and learn, right? To live as far as like, are you getting enough sleep at night? Are you able to get up in the morning? Are you able to go to bed at night? Is it affecting your diet, right? Are you able to eat? Are you eating too much? Are you eating too little? When you're thinking about the job, are you happy on the job? And not just like, I ain't trying to be at the job today, sure. Right? There's like a difference, right? There's levels to it, right? And so being able to kind of go through those little checkups are healthy or good for us. We actually have a checkup for the neck up that we do called healthymindsphilly.org.
It's called checkup from the neck up?
Yeah, checkup from the neck up. You know what I mean?
Little bars. Okay.
Little bars on there, you know what I mean? little, and so it's healthymindsphilly.org. You can check it out for yourself. Do your own little test. And it doesn't diagnose you, but what it does do is say, you know what, based on these answers to these questions, you might want to go here and get referred, right? Okay. So those are just a few things to do. But also, if I could just share real quick, we launched nationally what is called the 988 line, right? The lifeline, right? And you're talking about suicide prevention. All of us probably know 911. We've been taught that since we was 2, 3, 4 years old. But how many of us know about 988?
I never heard of 988 in my life. Yeah.
988 launched nationally, and Philadelphia was the first city to launch it last summer, 2022. Cool. And 988, it sort of came in the aftermath of, George Floyd and Walter Wallace, and basically the community members saying, you know what, we need a different option for mental health crisis, right? Not just having the police come.
Yeah, because a lot of police aren't trained properly. That's why we have situations like that.
To deal with the issues. And so now through 988, we're actually able to, it's 24/7. You can text or dial 988, and you can get access, all day, every day to mental health counselors who are properly trained, who can deal with questions about your anxiety, stresses, depression. If you feel like you want to harm yourself or somebody else, right? If you feel like you're in those types of crisis, dial or call 988. Or go to 988philly.org, and you can get all the info right there. Tell your people, because I've already had people that I know personally that have used it, and we got some significant help with it.
So, when I think about this, and I personally had experience. I think everybody at some point in their life, suicide crosses their mind. Whether it's just a thought, just, hey man, I don't want to deal with this no more. Or they heard somebody that either said it. And so it's really a real thing. So when I get to the point where I experienced it, it's crazy because I didn't mention it so many times in my music, but people listen to the music and I guess they just think it's entertainment.
Right.
I actually said a line where I said, I put the gun to the side of my head. I pulled the trigger, but it jammed. I asked God, am I dead? He said, no, it's too many things you got to show. People you got to help that you'll never know. And I said that so many times in different, songs, even the song that I'm going to have play before this. That's and powerful. People just didn't check on me and, hey, nice song. And I was dead serious.
Wow.
Like, because of whatever I was going through. And I think there's a lot of people out here that smile. They keep a smile on their face. They function. Everything look cool.
Yeah.
But you never know. And then what happens is they do it. And you hear stories like that DJ from Ellen, like, oh, I had no idea. Like, he seemed happy. He perceived to be rich. Like, I had let's talk about it. I'm in a show on BET called Tells by Irv Gotti. I'm acting in it. I'm gripping up this character. Over and over again. We got to keep doing the scene. nice guy. He told me he was in Walking Dead. I'm like, oh, that's what's up. He said he's from Philly.
Right.
I'm like, cool. Before the episode come out, I'm like, okay, I'm trying to reach him. He's not getting back. I watched the episode when it aired. At the end, it said, rest in peace. I look him up. He killed himself.
Wow.
You see what I'm saying?
And yeah, I do. And it's sad and tragic what's going on right now, man. I mean,
because everybody doesn't say, I want to kill myself. I want to kill myself.
No.
Nobody never says that sometimes. It don't happen like that. So I just wanted to kind of bring up the fact that it doesn't always look like that. And then, we talked about, me and you Jasynta on the way here, we talked about people saying, oh, you just saying that, so.
If you do say it, then people will assume that you're not going to do it.
Yeah, so I want to give Jasynta a minute. I want you to kind of just, talk about your experience, your mental health, anything you want to disclose. And more importantly, I guess at the end of it, how are you still here? Like, how are you able to be here today to even talk about it? Because obviously, you didn't do it, so.
Well, I'm definitely here by the grace of God because I did try. At one point, I did try. So, definitely by the grace of God, but also by going to get help too. And it took people, like, God has really blessed me with putting people in my life. So, like, around the time that I did try, I ended up in the hospital. And so, like, around that time, I was also homeless. I was also, using drugs. I was also not in a good place at all. I was really, really, it was the darkest time of my life. So, around that time, I did try. And when I was in the hospital, somebody that God put into my life who, like, in the weirdest way, he lived states away. I never even met him in person. Just somebody that God put into my life. He made some phone calls and got me into a place so I was no longer homeless. And then from there, I was able to grow. And like I keep saying, like, it took God, because it took having faith, because at that time, like, you have no hope. And that's really the reason, because there's no hope. There's no future. You feel there's absolutely no future. There's nothing ever going to come that's better than your circumstances. So it took having a little bit of faith that eventually there would be hope. And then it took time to like start to get myself back up. I did seek help. I did stop using drugs. And then I sought help through therapy and people that God just kept putting into my life. I can't stress that enough, because like I was at a point where I couldn't help myself, and he was putting people in my life that were able to help me. I did call the crisis line at one point before I did try. So that was probably a couple months before that. I called the crisis hotline. I was on the phone with them for probably about an hour.
Wow.
But yeah, seeking help, getting therapy, getting a diagnosis. So I'm bipolar. So I have bipolar 2. And what that means is that you have, like, really, it's depression, basically. It's like you have different phases of depression. It's up and down. It's different from bipolar 1, where you have these manic high phases. It's more like you have this, like, baseline, and then you're low, and then you have, like, your baseline. But, yeah.
Wow. So, a lot of people don't know I worked in crisis. I did crisis therapy for 3 years. So I sat beside psychiatrists that would just throw diagnoses at people. A lot of the time, people, not saying it's your case, but a lot of times people aren't really diagnosed with those things. They're just experiencing trauma or depression based off a certain incident. And a lot of those things don't get addressed, and they get thrown medication. And it kind of just don't make it no better. So when you said that, but you said something that stood out to me. You said you felt hopeless. So talk about, like, what led up to you wanting to, or not even wanting to, but attempting to, kill yourself.
It was just, like, at that time, like I said, I was homeless, and I brought myself to that point by using drugs. So I've always dealt with, like, depression, and I was diagnosed with depression. So I was also being...
Real quick, you was using drugs because of how you was feeling? Like, what got you to... I'm trying to, like, start always from the beginning. So
my mom passed away in 2020.
Okay, there we go.
And then that led me to use drugs that I've never used before. Right. And then that led me to become homeless. And then so I was like, they diagnosed me as I was depressed. So they were giving me depression medicine, not knowing I was bipolar. So when you're bipolar and you're taking, I was on Prozac. So when you're taking Prozac and you're bipolar, it makes you have like these manic episodes. So I was having all these, I was just a mess. I was on drugs. I was having manic episodes. I was just a mess. And it led me to be homeless. So I felt like I had nobody. I have a son too. So I felt like I was an awful mother. I have nobody. Like in my head, I would have been better off. My son would have been better off because everybody's like, oh, you have a son. Like, how could you possibly do that? In my head at the time, he would have been better off at least knowing that like, that's why I'm not there. That's why, like not having so many questions of like, why is mom like this? And that's the craziness that's going on in your head, because that's obviously so far from true. And I know this now, but at the time I just felt like everybody would be better or not care if I was gone. So that, I think it was probably about like a year or two where I was up and down with like suicidal ideations, suicidal like obsessions. It would become like obsessions at times. And like by the grace of God, I'm still here.
For sure. I heard you talk about, God. I heard you talk about help from other people. Just playing devil's advocate. If I'm watching this and I'm having ideations, no one knows, and I don't believe in God, I want to say to those people, a higher power isn't always God. A higher power is something outside of yourself. That could be the person that said hello to you, that check on you from time to time. That could be the support group that been inviting you, or the church that been inviting you, the basketball team that's been inviting you to come and engage and get out of your head. It could be anything outside yourself that can lift you up. So for the people that don't believe in God, there is other higher powers out there, and you have to watch for those signs. So the people that do show those little itty bitty signs that they care, like I said, just checking on you. That's what it was for me. Because I didn't always feel like, okay, I felt like, well, if it's a God, why am I going through this? Why did he take my sister? Why did this happen? Why did I lose so many friends? Like, I don't see the point.
Yeah.
But I want to say this real quick. The question was, I want to kill myself. But I said, what self? Is it the self, the projected self that everybody tells me what the expectations are? Society tells me what I think I am, or is it really my true self? And I realized I wanted to kill the expectations. I wanted to kill the fact that I had to try so hard, that I wasn't living up to certain things, that I had to deal with certain things. But I didn't really want to kill the true self, the real me. I just wanted to kill the pressures. I wanted to kill the pain. And that's what you really want to kill in my situation. I wanted to kill those things. But I couldn't see the separation between those things and myself. Once I separated those things, like, hey, I am not sad. I stopped saying I am sad, because that's like an affirmation. I say I'm experiencing sadness. I stopped saying I am mad. I am depressed. I'm experiencing this. This is a cloud that's going to pass. Yep. And I said to myself, it's happening forever. It seems like I'm going through the same thing. Nothing's changing. Nothing's working. And I said, how long should I stay in this darkness? Because you get comfortable in the darkness. And I said, I'm going to stay in it until I can see in it. I'm going to stay in this darkness till I can see in the dark. And what I mean by that is I got to see the lesson. I got to see the purpose. And I started realizing when I had that gun to my head, it's bigger than me. It's going to be people that I will never meet. It's going to be people that's watching this, that I'll never see, that this is going to inspire, or my music or whatever I'm doing is going to inspire. So for me personally, I said, I was given a gift. Some people look at their life as a curse. Like, I didn't want to be here. I didn't ask to be here. Whether you asked to be here or not, in my opinion, it was a gift. Because I had times where I smiled. I had times where I was happy. But you forget about that when you say it. And I said, you know what? I'm going to die. Let me not rush it. Let me try to do something with it. And let me honor this gift and show my appreciation by just staying strong. And that was me. That was my way. So I use music. I use my influence. And that's why I'm here today. Hey, I just want to take a minute to talk about self-care. Sometimes you need to take a vacation. I want to talk about our sponsor, Made Mandana. Made Mandana was produced and executed by free-spirited women who love to travel. They thrive on looking their best and living their best lives. If this is you and you adore signature quality pieces, you will certainly love it. Made Mendana offers swimsuits and resort wear with an array of different styles and accessories. They just don't provide clothes, they provide you with an ensemble of luxury for your unforgettable experience. When you look good, you feel much better. Visit shopmademendana.com and let them help you prepare for your next destination.
And that's one thing that, well, first of all, I want to say I thank you for just sharing your honesty and transparency of the story, because I think, you being able to be so open about it, I'm sure somebody's going to be impacted by you being so honest. And so thank you for doing that, and you as well. One of the things that we understand is that spirituality has always been a great tool, to kind of work us through, to your point. And, we always say, like, even like in the work, things that are therapeutic don't have to be therapy, right? Like you said, waking up and doing some meditation or yoga, that's therapeutic. That can
working out,
boxing, doing music. That walk with the music, being around that elder on the block, Mr. So-and-so, Miss So-and-so, listen to them talk for like an hour or two, making that, grocery store run, in the middle of the day or the end of the day. Those things are therapeutic and can kind of get us through, particularly also culturally, right? And, even around gun violence, I mean, we've seen a 200% increase in suicide for black men, since 1980. And a lot of that is because of access to guns and access to substances, right? And so we're using, guns obviously to take our lives, or substances, too many pills, too many of this, that, and the third. And so we're trying to also, again, work through not only the violence angle, but also the substance angle. That's obviously a big part of the conversation.
For sure. One of my questions was about families. I had posted something one time about suicide. I was actually suicidal when I posted, but it was sarcasm for me. But it was, I guess, unsensitive to some people. So a lot of people was commenting like, my cousin just committed suicide last week. You shouldn't have posted this. And when you got a platform, people kind of feel like, I just feel like, hey, unfollow me. But
right.
I could see both sides. I could see it being insensitive, but at the time I didn't care, because for me it gave me enough laugh to say, hey, let me give myself a little more 30 minutes. You know what I mean? And to be honest, I'm gonna say what it said, because it was up. It said, you're gonna die anyway. Stop trying. I said something like, why commit suicide? You're gonna die anyway. Stop rushing it. Something like that. And somebody was like, that's insensitive. And to be honest, I'd be accountable. It is. It's very insensitive, but it's true. But that's what came across my mind. It said, hey, what am I rushing it for? But the whole purpose of it, in a bigger sense, outside of the sarcasm, was, I'm still here though.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
That's it.
I could have got hit by a bus. I got
anything could have happened.
56 friends didn't die from gun violence. I could have been one. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, you got to think about it. Like, what they say, oh, God don't give you more than you can handle, and it sound good, but you don't always feel like that. So I had to say to myself, maybe I am a warrior. That's the perspective, the deeper side that the people didn't see behind the post. But I say that because the person said their cousin committed suicide a week ago, and families are affected by it. So any work you've done, or any families, people who have actually had that final situation, because I want to make it clear, suicide is final. The situations you go through are not going to stay the same. Nothing stays the same. That's one thing that I can say for a fact, is everything changes. Everything in this world. So your situations in time can change, but if you make that decision, you won't be around to see it. So families, you got to work with any families that deal with the effects of someone taking their life?
Definitely. And I think one of the things that's so important is that, yes, we can be warriors, but also it's okay to not be okay. And I think sometimes we undervalue the idea that, yo, man, like today, I'm just not feeling it today. Like I'm just not feeling it today. Like I woke up, I'm just, coats out of the bed, whatever it is. I'm just like, today's not going to be a good day, and that's okay. And we've dealt with some families, man. Unfortunately, I used to be with our suicide prevention task force, and all types of stories, man, from, of course, the city of Philadelphia and beyond, really throughout the region, of, a dad who seemed to be, again, like you mentioned earlier, everything seemed to be on the up and up, working dad, and mom was doing her thing, and the children were okay, and then never came home, and come to find out he, took his life that day. Actually with him, it was, a bridge situation. We're hearing a lot more about substances, substance use being utilized in families, members, and sons. And I think a lot of it also has to deal with, again, we can't underestimate what's the toll that's been taken since COVID. 2020 on, man, has really been challenging for a lot of people.
A lot of people had to sit with themselves.
They
couldn't go to the gym. So we talked about therapeutic. They couldn't go to the studio.
Yeah.
One of my episodes, episode 2, I had to shoot somewhere that was like not, didn't look as nice for the podcast because we couldn't go nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can't do those things, it affects your mental health. So I agree with that.
And
I think even without COVID too, like a lot of times, like people are in a spot where they can't bring themselves to do those things. Like
It's like paralysis, right?
yeah, I
You
wanted
can't
to go
even get
back
up.
to that. I think because you brought up like exercise and different things, and you also brought up music. Like, because there was a point for me where my depression was so bad, like there was no way. Like now I go for runs. If I'm depressed, like I'll go for a run, and that helps me a lot. But back then, that was not gonna happen. Like I was not getting up to work out. The only thing that really helped me around that time was music. So that's a good one.
Yeah.
Music is fourth dimensional. It's one of the only things that brings you to the present moment. I think a lot of this mental health stuff is anxiety, fear, either from the past or expectations or the future. What people don't really do is they don't live in the moment. So when you're listening to music, you can't rush a song. You can't unless you fast forward it, but you listen to it to hear every beat. You listen to it every space, and it's therapeutic as well.
And we know that music affects mood.
For sure.
Right? Like if you want to work out, you play a certain kind of music. If you want to do a run, you do a certain kind of music. If you want to go to sleep, you play a certain kind of music. If you want to be with your partner, you play a certain kind of music.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I think it's also a way of like feeling understood and heard too. Like when you hear songs, like I know like a big one for me was Joshua Luke Smith. He's a Christian rapper, but like his music is like poetry, and it just like he was one of those people like I just felt so understood at that time. Like I felt heard because it felt like he, if not like went through the same things, he understood that I was like, somebody going through these things. Like I can't explain it, but it's just a way of feeling like you're heard.
For sure. And understood, somebody can relate to you. I do music, and I've been so depressed that I couldn't even do it. You know what I mean? It's like, because I'm usually the one that's inspiring, but I needed some inspiration. And coming up, Tupac was big for me. I remember changes. He said, "Still I see no changes. Wake up in the morning and I ask myself, is life worth living? Should I blast myself? I'm tired of being poor, and even worse, I'm black. My stomach hurts, so I'm looking for a purse to snatch." Listen, I'm like, yo.
That was heavy.
I'm like
heavy.
12. Mind you, I'm 12.
Right.
Thinking about this. And I'm listening. My mom, everybody think everything cool. I'm listening like, who he said that?
Right.
I'm like, this person as a famous person, like he feel what I feel, that resonated with me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Even to that point, man, Biggie's first album, Ready to Die, the last song on the album is called Suicidal Thoughts. And the whole last song is just basically him talking about him wanting to kill himself.
And you know what's crazy?
Last
As consumers, it's just entertainment.
All right. I know.
You know what I mean? But I think of course we live in a real cruel world now with social media. People be on fake pages, say wild stuff.
Yep.
So we talk about cyberbullying and
because it's all behind the comfort of your phone, or you're somewhere in your room in your
you
basement.
would never say it to nobody's face.
Never.
You know what I mean? It ain't like back in the day where you could say it to somebody and deal with the consequences. Now you could just say whatever. And that's a collective insensitivity. It's like a bunch of followers too. Like, oh, they say it, I'm gonna say it. And it's a pile-on effect, and that affects people's mental health too. I had a model that I was working with. I was trying to get her to do a photo shoot with, and she said, "I ain't doing that right now. I deactivated my Instagram because the comparisons and everything I had to deal with was too much to keep up with, and I don't want to lose my life." And it's crazy, crazy statement. You see what I'm saying?
Instagram's been tough, man, for a lot of people, man, just because, like you said, everybody just shows the goodness on IG. Like, people show the best of their lives. They're not really showing the pain, the grief, the sorrow, the anger, I just went to a funeral, I just went to a repast. You know what I mean? Like, we're not showing those things.
Yeah, they're not showing.
Everything's lit.
They got 2 million followers and $27 in their bank account. And that's a hard reality to deal with. You know what I mean? And that's hard to keep up. They're not going to show that, but that's hard to deal with. And that's why I'm a big advocate for like taking care of your real life. Like, I got an album I'm working on. Everybody's like, when the next album? I'm like, listen, I ain't like everybody else. I don't shoot from the hip. My album is good because I live it, and when I bring it to you, it's like a soul food. It's like a Thanksgiving meal. It ain't no little popping, little what they call it? You pop them in the microwave. Hot Pockets.
Hot Pockets.
This ain't no
yeah.
Hot Pockets.
Ain't no Hot Pockets.
Y'all dropping Hot Pockets. Little.
That thing got to marinate for a few hours.
Yeah, this thing got to
huh?
marinate, so when you get it, it can have longevity. So
Yeah.
that's what's happening. It's marinating right now.
Love to hear that.
But until then, you getting these podcasts. So I wanted to talk about the brighter side. Tell me some stories of people who you seen overcame it.
Of course. So with EMOC and our work that we do, we actually made.
And tell me about Trigger too.
Yeah, we're about to say. So we actually made a film called Trigger, which we're very excited about. We actually premiered it last October 2022. We've had over 25 screenings across the city of Philadelphia, and really across the Commonwealth as well. We went up to Harrisburg. We've been out in the counties, and the film was talking about the traumas of gun violence. We got people who are shooters in the film, young people. We got like
You say shooters, like
Shooters.
real life shooters?
real life shooters, bro.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's the hard part. Like you got to be intentional. Like if we don't get that angle of it, people who have actually been a part of the quote unquote problem, we're not going to get at the quote unquote solution. You know what I mean? One of the guys in the film says himself, he's like, you know what, man? Like, look, like one of the things that changed him was the fact that when he was locked up, he lost his brother to gun violence while he was locked up, and had his son. He had to see like while he was locked up. Both things happened. His brother was killed, and his son was born. All while he was locked up for doing some stuff on the street. You know what I mean? And that kind of made him figure out like, yo, like something's got to give. You know what I mean?
I got a friend, an associate that's in jail. Sorry about that. I got an associate that's in jail. Been in jail for the 23 years for a murder he did. His mom died. That crushed him.
Yeah.
They don't know that. We you got Wallow, you got all these people saying this.
Right.
But and some of them young boys I watch, that's doing the drill stuff. They get locked up and they hit them and they like, yo, I ain't coming out. But I don't know. Like I don't think it really, like you said, what percentage of people in jail got mental health?
40.
So a lot of even the people that's in jail, from what I hear from my brother who did 17 years, he had a cellie who was, not all the way there. And I think that's another layer of like transitioning from living out here to living in there. So, you got, I know it's a lot of suicides or reckless behavior that lead to someone losing their lives in jail and outside of jail.
But also part of it is what you said earlier also about what you're saying about the medication. I think as a black community also, we're dealing with issues of either being misdiagnosed or undiagnosed. You know what I mean? So you got a lot of people, walking around right now who were diagnosed with something, but based on, again, cultural challenges and bias in the medical establishment, have been misdiagnosed with something based on how we behave or how we kind of exhibit somebody's behaviors, or undiagnosed because you just never got it checked out. And so, like, I've had a young person, for instance, who, went to a school in West Philly, had A's and B's, was on the football team, went away to Bloomsburg, first semester, I started getting phone calls like, yo, like, he's starting to hear voices. I'm like, what? And this is a kid who was like, we thought he was going to be out of here, just do his thing. He came home that second semester because he got diagnosed with schizophrenia. And so these are the things that we don't talk about. And it's only because his roommate was like, yo, like, I don't know why he's like having all these issues. And so, but come to find out, it had been happening for a while prior to him even going to college. He just never said anything.
Wow. Jasynta, what would you say to someone, that's going through something similar than what you went through and at that stage where they probably made attempts or want to make attempts? What would you say to that person, for somebody that's still here?
Talk about it. Like, don't be scared to talk about it, because I felt like when you talk, I feel like it's scary. It's a scary thing to talk about because people are going to have all these different perceptions of like why you're talking about it, or they're going to think that you're just trying to seek attention or whatever. But just talk about it, because there's people who do want to help you. And you never know, like, what kind of help, what the reasons may be. Like, you never know how your life may change within the next year. It'll be November 18th, 2022 is what I tried. So it'll be 1 year almost since I've tried it. My life is completely different. I would have never thought my life would look like this a year ago.
Yeah. Remember what I talked about changes? You just got to kind of, I guess wait it out. You know what I mean? Because it's not permanent. You know what I mean? It's not permanent. Any statistics that come to mind for you, Gabriel, that about suicide? Anything that comes to mind?
Well, one thing that comes to mind, well, two things come to mind real quick is that although, Black people represent 7% of those who are commit suicide nationally, in the city of Philadelphia, it's closer to like 40%. Particularly in Philadelphia specifically, of all suicides, it's about 77% are men to 23% women. So there's obviously a significant disparity.
Do you think men
on the gender side?
Do you think men not thinking it's cool or not culturally feeling like it's okay to address their feelings and mental health is a part of that percentage?
No question. I think it's that. I think it's stress. I think it's a lot of the issues around having to, quote unquote, maintain the household, right? And when men have a challenge with how they think about their own manhood, masculinity, right, and being able to like maintain as far as take care of the bills, take care of the home, to feed, clothe, and shelter the family. Once you begin to not be able to do those things, it really impacts you. And not everybody, everybody has their own vulnerabilities to life, and if you can't, respond in a healthy way, that's what could lead to some of these challenges, man.
Seriously. So as we wrap
and real
up,
quick, also, the number one demographic also for those who are committing suicide is 25 to 44. And so that age group is really the bulk of those suicides across the country and also in Philadelphia.
Wow. So I was going to say, as we wrap up, give them that number again that they can call.
Yeah, please. Again, you can text or you can dial 988. Again, 988. You can also go to 988philly.org, 988philly.org to get more information. Again, 24/7, support services on the line who will support you right now.
You got any national hotlines?
Go to 988 because again,
Okay.
it's actually a part of a national initiative.
Okay, cool. Because I got a lot of people,
Yeah,
watch this from
definitely.
different places.
Yep.
too.
It's national. So it launched last summer. Philly was the first city, but it's all across the country now.
Great. One last thing I want to say, for anybody watching this, anybody that's going through anything, don't take those signs and those statements lightly because you never know. And then also, we got a lot of mass shootings and craziness going on too.
Yeah.
And I think it's a lot of signs in that. So if you see somebody, just don't call them weird. Don't say, don't blow it off, because you never know. That could be your family member that's getting harmed. That could be your kids. That could, it could be real. And this mental health thing, it's like one of the, if not the biggest issue I feel like we face just as human beings in general. So I wanted to bring it to you here live and direct. It's the Match Book Podcast, where one idea sparks the idea of many. So what I want you to do is take your match, keep it lit, keep it moving. Make sure you go to extinguishentertainment.com. That's extinguish, ENT with an X, to see more information about how you can, reach out to somebody if you need it, but also more information on other things that Extinguish do. I want to thank you, Gabriel, and I want to thank you, Jasy, for coming through.
Thank you, brother.
Anything else y'all want to say to the people?
Nope.
I'll just say, rather than tell somebody, what's wrong with you, ask them what happened to you.
Fire! Get mad when you blow up and your friends act new too, so I'm looking in the mirror, seeing my reflection. The man in the mirror asks me a question. Do you want to give up or do you want a blessing? The answer is my only direction, but I ain't stressing, cause I ain't stressing, cause